Welcome to Wyoming Sports Talk today, live streaming again for you on YouTube and Periscope via Twitter, and it's being brought to you by Taco John's of Cheyenne. Locations on South Greeley Highway, downtown on KRAE Avenue, Yellowstone Road, corner of Dell Range and Ridge, and the corner of Pershing and Ridge. Remember, drive-through only at Taco John's of Cheyenne. We also want to thank Key of Cheyenne on Nation Way. In addition to buying a new or even pre-owned vehicle, check out their great service department. Key of Cheyenne on Nation Way. Platte Valley Bank offering 2 banking locations for you again with drive-thrus. You can check out the Vandehigh Avenue, the original location, and, of course, the east side location at the corner of College and Pershing. Chick-fil-A, Windmill and Dell Range, directly across from Powers Field and Menards, where Ray and City says, come on by. We offer curbside service, and we have 2 convenient drive-thrus, Chick-fil-A, Windmill, and Dell Range. Medicare Pharmacy has a drive-thru for you. They're open Monday through Saturday. Gene and the great staff with your doctor's prescription will fill your said medications. They're right next door to Texas Roadhouse. B&B Appliance and TV at 714 Central Avenue in Cheyenne. Get a hold of Bruce and the crew if you are in the market today for GE, Maytag, Frigidaire, Whirlpool, all on display. And again, talk with Bruce and they will explain to you how you can come about your appliance for your home today at B&B Appliance and TV, where they service what they sell at 714 Central Avenue. Lennox Auto Body over on Dunn Avenue and the Auto Glass and Detail Center over on Pershing Boulevard. They're both part of Lennox Enterprises. Founded by Dick Lennox, tradition carried on by his daughter Heather. And again, they haven't skipped a beat through the years. Their reputation speaks for themselves, serving our community needs again for over a quarter century. First Year Bank is located at 1508 Stillwater Avenue, open Monday through Friday. Give them a call and check out what banking hours that they're offering for you during this time. Again, the great crew over there, they have some fantastic CD rates going on, but also, too, getting your monies deposited or withdrawn or paid into the bank. Again, you get a hold of them, and they will take good care of you over at First Tier Bank. Mondello's Pizzeria also offering takeout and curbside as well, and Joe has been doing this now going on his 5th decade. So, again, it's different now with the coronavirus, but, again, they are open for business Monday through Sunday. Sundays noon until 8. Give Mondello's Pizzeria a call for delicious Paisan cuisine, always made fresh. And, again, they will do the takeout and they will do the curbside for you. Again, locally owned, locally operated, Mondello's Pizzeria. And we also want to thank Pepsi of Cheyenne. They are our scoreboard sponsor. No scores to report as everything right now PPD'd until further notice.
Well, the only thing that will, at least again, there is no scoreboard with all sports, again, suspended at this point in time. Again, we'll see when they are back in action. Obviously, we'll be here first and foremost to get that all at least squared away and again, get back into kind of the normalcy. But I do want to remind folks coming up this weekend starting up tomorrow, time to be determined. Again, I'm going to get those details figured out tonight. Again, that will be posted on our social media signs, whether on Twitter and Facebook, and the various ways that we are online. Again, at Nick Wiles Sports on Twitter, Facebook, at least.com, where you can find 1480 KRAE and Wyoming Sports Talk today. Again, we will have coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend more of the 1480 KRAE virtual March Madness live stream. We are down to the Sweet 16. We'll have day 1 and day 2 at least coverage coming up at least tomorrow and also to Friday, 4 games apiece those days, and then we'll move into Elite 8 action for Saturday and Sunday. We will have games Saturday, Sunday, all divvied out just like that. Again, follow along live online with us. Again, those games will be streamed on Periscope via Twitter and also to the 1480 KRAE YouTube channel, just like Wyoming Sports Talk today is being live streamed right now. Again, we are not on radio. Again, we are more digital this time right now during this, again, interesting times that we're living in. So, again, find all information, find everything that we are producing here on Wyoming Sports Talk today and also to 1480 KRAE online, the various social media ways that we bring it to you.
And, you know, again, me watching all of the news happenings of the day, if we can, you know, kind of keep our fingers crossed and hopefully get what the president said, maybe by about Easter, things could start easing up a little bit, maybe return to normal. Again, like you mentioned, and we were talking about baseball, where it was mid-May. It looks like it could be Memorial Day. It looks like it could be into June now. So, again, so much going on in our world, and, again, we're always going to keep you abreast of what's happening. Our first guest joins us here in just a couple of moments. We will check in with Chad Whitworth. He is the Central High School Athletic Director, also part of the Wyoming High School Activities Association board, where they pretty much keep an eye on all sports throughout the state of Wyoming. So we're going to check in with Chad after a brief timeout right here on Wyoming Sports Talk today. And welcome back to Wyoming Sports Talk. Today we get to bring on our first guest. Again, known him for a long, long time. One Chad Whitworth, who is the athletic director at Cheyenne Central. I guess, Chad, during these interesting times, the office no longer at Cheyenne Central, but at Casa de Whitworth, right?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, I just had an influx of phone calls, one from the district and one from the Activities Association, as I sit at my table working on my computer. So, yeah, it is the office of Casa de Whitworth, I guess.
You know, Chad, I got to ask you this question right out of the box, and I want to go back to the state tournament. And I'm assuming, and again, this is just me speaking out loud, that when all teams were in Casper, 3A, 4A, there was always, I would venture to say that all athletic directors were probably aware that this could shut down at any given time. Or was this something that Thursday where the Department of Health at Natrona County said, hey, we're shutting it down? Were you aware that this could possibly happen?
Well, honestly, it's funny that you mention and go back there because so that night, Wednesday night, I was at Casper for State Spirit. And, this is one of those things that, yeah, I knew what was going on and you sort of pay attention to it. And then all of a sudden, as an athletics guy or whatever, I see the NBA shuts down and I spend all night watching TV going, what in the world, and really just gaining more information, watching the news and all of that. But so everybody's aware. One of the things that happened, and the Activities Association they tried to contact the Natrona County Health Department on Wednesday night. And I think it happened to be they were setting up for State Spirit. So I think it might have been after they were closed. But Ron did reach out to them in the morning, like at 8:00, and they're going, yeah, but it should be okay, so on and so forth. So we start, and obviously our girls were playing. So I'm at the gym. And Trevor Wilson kind of motions me down and is like, hey, come down here. And we were gathering the ADs that were in there because at that point, and it wasn't long after the game had started, the Natrona County Health Department had basically contacted Ron, who was at the event center, but said, your choices are shut it down or go without fans. And so that's sort of where the discussion as far as the ADs go. We were all in there, and Jerry was there from East and some other ADs. And, everybody was like, yeah, we should go without fans. So they were going to let us finish that game, and then we were going to proceed without people there, and they were going to allow one administrator just in case something had happened, or So that was kind of where we were at. Well, then shortly after that, from the timeline that me talking with Ron was, the sheriff showed up to serve the event center and the activities association with basically a cease and desist order. This is going to be done. And I think they had called, and I don't know, I'm guessing they thought we were going to try to fight it or whatever. But so that's sort of the process that took place, that led to the cancellation of state basketball.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting on the back end of how everything unfolded after that first game, where, again, at least going into the official record books, the Central High Lady Indians did at least win that game, but that was the only game that got underway their day one up there in Casper. But, speaking of that state tournament, where, there's been a lot of questions, and again, we're still also too kind of early on into figuring out this whole process of, when do we get back into the swing of things with high school athletics? Is the spring seasons, or are these tournaments ever going to be played or made up once again? Speaking of that basketball tournament for both the boys and girls, is there any indication that once we get the all clear, that, hey, athletes, even in the summertime, if you want to come back and play basketball, you can? Or is it pretty much 2020 state tournament is officially done for 3A and 4A?
Yeah, that statement was made by the Activities Association already, that those were canceled. There was some talk, immediately after that, of maybe trying to reschedule them. And I think what you were, the issue we had talked about was, hey, yeah, maybe you move it to Cheyenne. The problem is, if all of a sudden the Laramie County Health Department gives us the same thing, now what do we do? And the one thing that I think everybody goes, oh, we should have given it a shot, which maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't have. In hindsight, it wasn't going to be played here the next weekend, because clearly we've seen what's unfolded since then. But I think one thing is, let's not do that again, where we have everybody there and all of a sudden have to cancel it. I think if there was going to be a reschedule, it needed to be done in an attempt to say, okay, this is when we're going to do it. We know for a fact we'll be able to get it in. And that date just doesn't exist at this point. And so I don't know. You get into the summer, I think you deal with this is just my personal opinion, you deal with a whole another set of issues with kids. And, we've got spring sports that we're still up in the air with. We've got kids at that point in the summer, if you're thinking, hey, we should play it in July, that are gone for whatever reason. I just don't know that that's a good solution, to be honest.
Is there a possibility, Chad, as we talk about at least spring sports, where we look at outdoor, at least track and field, soccer for both boys and girls, golf as well too throughout the state? Is it a legitimate possibility right now? Again, obviously it is day by day as we live in what is kind of the current situation in the world right now, but is it a possible future right now that there are no spring sports, that pretty much all those at least spring activities pretty much do not exist here for 2020?
Well, it's certainly a possibility. What I would say to that is, it's not a guarantee. And I think, like you said, Nick, we're playing this by year. And I think the one thing that we at the Activities Association, I'm on the board, for the next year. And I think people need to understand, we absolutely understand our role as far as what is our role within the high school, and that's to provide educational athletic opportunities for our students. And but it's in conjunction with the functioning of a school and a school district. And one thing we're not going to do is make a decision that is in conflict with what our schools are doing. And that is, we've also got to be sensitive. We've had 2 weeks out of school that weren't planned. And if we come back and all of a sudden we say, okay, we can try to find a modified spring schedule, which I think most people would be in favor of. But we also have to weigh the idea of our student athletes now missing more time out of school to go with these 2 weeks we just had. And that's not me saying we're not going to do it, because I think we can work it out. But I think what that that schedule looks a lot different maybe than the schedule we were planning to play, right? The idea of, hey, maybe we just pick up wherever that date is that we start playing again. We just pick up and play our schedule. That would be my first thought. Well, if that schedule involves travel, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe it is playing, even though we don't have quadrants in soccer, but playing our quadrant, sort of the Laramie East South, getting those matches in because we can do them after school. There's some things that we can do, but all of that becomes a moot point because we're going to make any decision from the Activities Association standpoint. I feel like we'll make that in conjunction with the Department of Education and our schools and what they're doing.
And I'll get back to basketball in a second. I want to continue on with the philosophy there. And again, and it sounds like, too, Chad, if everything comes to fruition, we're back in school April 7th, just for argument's sake, and we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. And again, we have been fortunate here in the state of Wyoming with the virus outbreaks. But if we are allowed that opportunity to go back to school, would it be a case where student athletes have a couple of weeks to get themselves into shape? And as you mentioned there with the soccers, for example, or even the track and field, the outdoor activities, would that be something where we would pretty much focus on weekends? And again, I would be thinking double dips on weekends where it's a track meet against Sheridan on Saturday and Gillette on Sunday. Or do you do regionals?
I don't think we would ever. I don't think we would ever waive the Sunday rule. We wouldn't be playing on Sundays. I think that's that's just, again, that's my opinion. That I'm not speaking on anybody's behalf other than my own. I wouldn't be in favor of going on Sundays, not because that's against our district policies, but it's also against the Activities Association rules.
Stay traditional Friday, Saturday.
Well, I mean, I just think that. We're not going to go run track against. We don't necessarily run track with Gillette Sheridan anyway. The track thing is interesting because we could absolutely, people in the different communities could host. I mean, obviously, if we host a meet, we can have a 4-team meet really easily with Laramie coming over and us south and east, and you can use those times, as qualifying for the state track meet. You could certainly go with a regional track meet format, like back in the day. When I ran, even where you're going, we're going to run the regional track meet, and the top 8 from each side are going to make the state track meet the next week. So those are all possibilities. I think the first part of your question where you start talking about training, I think that's another thing that we have to weigh, because a lot of those kids, those sports basically got Monday through Saturday that week of that we were talking state basketball. That's when the spring sports season started. So they got 6 practices there. Now, do we say, okay, we're going to count those 6 and then we come back and they need to get 3 because 9 is our rule, and then we can start? Possibly. That's something I think that the Activities Association is going to weigh in on. I think some of that, there's a reason we have a 9 practice rule as far as just being in condition to compete, in soccer, track, football. I mean, there's basketball, all of those things. So if we have that rule in place for a reason, then that's something the board would have to discuss probably and come up with a decision on.
We're talking with Chad Whitworth, Cheyenne Central Athletic Director. Chad, I want to go back to basketball, and I'm not being funny here. I'm actually being very serious. Technically, with the Central Lady Indians winning that first game against Green River, would they be considered a state champion? If you want to put an asterisk by it, fine, I don't care. And then there would be no boys champion crown for the 2019-2020 season. I'm throwing that out there.
Well, I mean, obviously for us that'd be great.
Well, another banner. What's the difference, right?
With all due respect, I mean, and out of respect for the other schools that had qualified and were there, they didn't have an opportunity to do what we did in essence and win that game. So I certainly am not gonna weigh in on that. But I know I see what you're saying. I just don't think it's possible when to me it would be something where all the teams that were there would need to be afforded the same opportunity. And then, of course, that you're going to have 4 people, obviously, who, if we play that whole day out, 4 women's teams and 4 men's teams in the 4A, that would have a claim to that. And I will say this in talking with Commissioner Laird and following this, obviously. I mean, I've looked at a number of different states and what they're doing. It's There's a lot going on. Kansas is done for spring sports. Colorado's done until April 18th. Oregon's the April 28th. Nevada's indefinitely. Montana, New Mexico, they're indefinitely, sort of like us, but they're looking at April 13th and April 1st. When you look at all of these things, I mean, it just was such a crazy time and decisions that had to be made. But talking to Ron, he watched the Montana semifinals, and what he was telling me the story that once those 2 games were done, they made the announcement they were going to crown co-champions. And he said you had one team that was devastated because it sounds like, and I could be wrong on the school, so I apologize if I am, but it sounded like I don't know if it's Missoula Hellgate or something. Hellgate High School was undefeated, and it sounded like Billings Skyview is who they were going to play. And it sounded like the Hellgate kids were really disappointed in the decision. And, of course, the Skyview kids were really happy because they were going to be the prohibitive underdog, it sounded like. And those are situations that you're just going, I don't know how you do it when you're dealing with kids and try to make the right decision and the best decision you can in the interest of everybody. It's just a hard place to be.
I agree.
Yeah, without a doubt. I want to talk, at least keep on the basketball theme with you, Chad, where you talk about a team that went undefeated, kind of sparked my, at least, line of questioning for you on this topic where we've had Tag Lane on. And again, we'll get your thoughts on this, again, as being the athletic director over at Cheyenne Central. But, boys, at least the Central High boys exiting out in that regional tournament, did not have the opportunity to make it to the state tournament if it were to happen, barring of what happened here in the world. But, again, it was kind of a mid-controversy across the entire state of Wyoming of this team that went undefeated during the regular season is not making it to the state, at least, tournament. We had Tag on talk about that he was, again, against that tournament format. We've had other coaches throughout this city that said, hey, we're not too happy or at least too thrilled with the tournament format, but we're going to go with it as is. But, Chad, want to get your thoughts on that, where, again, you see your own team, of what special they were doing on this season on the court to exit out in that regional tournament due to, again, injuries and kind of just the wackiness that was up there in Thunder Basin. But what are kind of your thoughts in that regional tournament format and what happened to those Cheyenne Central Indians a couple weekends ago?
Well, I think, when you look at that, one of the things that I think we have to do is look at it in the totality of the 2 years too. I think, this was new to us, and I think some things that people need to understand is the Activities Association doesn't create that tournament or that format. I think everybody thinks that's the case. I had people reach out to me, of course, on Sunday after our boys were eliminated and wanted to meet with me, which I did. But I also, because the comment, so one of the emails was basically, hey, I want to meet with you, not necessarily as the athletic director at Central, but also as the person who's on the board. And I said, well, you need to meet with me as the AD at Central because the board doesn't make those decisions, nor does the commissioner. The 4A athletic directors made that decision. And that's what I think the first thing people need to understand is what the state tells us is you're going to send us 4A, you're going to send us 8 teams. How we do that is up to us. So that takes us back to basically 2.5 or 3 years ago when we went to the 16 teams and we went to the quadrants and all of those things. And the 4 AEDs had a meeting and we made the decision that this is what we were going to do. I'm sure Tag told you I voted against it, not just because of Tag and he didn't like it, but there were some other things about it that I didn't like personally, not so much the result that we got. I certainly don't want to say it's the result that happened this year. Maybe that's one of the reasons, but it's not the sole reason that I voted against it. But the bottom line is it's what the other ADs wanted, and so we lived with it. And I also think that people need to understand last year we lost our first game and did qualify. And so I think we've been on both ends of that. spectrum, because I think a lot of people want to go back to the old ways of single elimination, which all of that has merit. I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that we were the benefit of the way the tournament format was one year, and we were victims of it the next. And I think that needs to be said as well. All of that being said, do I think there's a better way? Yes. Do I think my way is the best way? Not necessarily. I think, one of the things that we as ADs, and I've talked with Jerry Schlabs about this, and Mark Puev both, to say, what we as ADs have to determine is what's the point of our state tournament. If we're the ones who get to in essence send the 8 teams and make the decision how we're going to do that, then we need to decide, is it to get the best 8 teams to the state tournament? And if it is, then I'm not so sure that what we're doing is the best way. If that's not, and that to me would be, yes, this is Chad's opinion, that would be what I think it's for. Okay, we need to get the best 8 teams there. And granted, people can be upset and people can lose games. I mean, we see it in the NCAA tournament. We see it in every tournament. But I don't think that any tournament bracket is set up to where the one, in essence, and when I say this, again, I'm not trying to disparage other programs around the state, but I think people would agree that Central and East were the top 2 teams in the state all year long. For the, Sheridan was certainly there, but I think as it played out, people would have said, okay, it's probably East and Central.
Yeah.
I don't think any bracket is designed to have those top 2 teams play each other in a loser-out game. I just don't think that's the way it's supposed to be set up. That's just my personal opinion. Again, people will disagree. I'm sure there's lots of people who think this is Chad having sour grapes, and it's really not. I've lived with this result, and it's, I have not thrown a fit. And part of that is for me to say, if we think it's wrong, it doesn't matter if it happened to Central or East or Sheridan or Thunder Basin. If they were in the same situation, I should feel the same way about it. And I do. And I had conversations with Tom Siemens during the tournament that Saturday. He told me, Chad, this is not the way this is supposed to go. And I said, well, it's part of what we do. And, we've done it now for 2 years. And I think now the 4 AEDs need to sit down. And to be honest with you guys, if they tell me, Chad, we still think this is the best way, then we're going to live with it, because I'm one vote of 16 anyway.
Chad, I'm glad you brought up 16. And I'm still banging my head against the wall that we have 16 4A teams for hoops, but we're still down to 10 for football. And again, teams that left the 4A ranks, Green River, Evanston, just to throw a couple out there, they left because, hey, we're too small and we need to drop down a division. And then all of a sudden now, we bring them back into Class 4A for basketball. And again, what was the decision behind making these quadrants? And the reason I throw this at you, and I will be negative on this, do we remember what happened with the WAC 16? It just did not work out and eventually folded up. So, and again, I'm just not a fan of this. That's my opinion.
Sure. And I understand. And what I would say there is this had been a long time coming. When I was coaching, Mr. Shope had asked me to come up with an idea of sort of a 10-team. What would it look like if we kind of went with a similar configuration to football? Now, what I want people to remember there is our state was in a much different situation financially. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the Activities Association. I'm talking about the state of Wyoming and the funding that was going to education. And those things have changed, and the priorities of superintendents have changed. And in my time as the AD and on the board, there was a time where we could, and awesome for our state and for our schools, that we could just travel. It was reimbursed. Everybody was, we were scheduling, doing everything, and we could make those trips. Well, all of a sudden, when the economy took a downturn, and now funding's a lot different, and they're trying to tighten the bootstraps and what we're doing, all of a sudden we've got to come up with a better way to travel and try to travel less and spend less. So superintendents gave us charges of, we got to spend less time we got to spend more time in school. So we got to be out of school less, and we got to find a way to save money. Well, how do we do that in our state? Because we all can see there's going to be a lot of travel. And so that's where the 16, if we go to 10, we're still going to have these long trips, because at that point you're probably going to have to play everybody to get down to your 8 teams and figure out a way to do it. But with 16 in the quadrants, what it allows us is to reduce travel and reduce time out of school. And that is important to our superintendents and our districts. And so when we did, that's why the quadrants work. And one of the things, and I think everybody agrees to this as these were discussed, you go, it's not necessarily going to be less time out of school and less travel for everybody, but it is going to be for a bunch of us. And that's when the decision was made. And, I get people don't like it. I just, I think people, and I'm not saying you, Larry, I just think people in general, because this topic brings up a lot of emotion for people and the way we used to do things and so on and so forth. But I think having an understanding of these are the things that we're charged with as ADs, and again, these are proposals that are brought forward by different groups. Again, it's not, yes, the Activities Association Board of Directors is the one who's going to vote on this and say, okay, we're going to go to 16 teams. But there's a process to that. There's 4 districts in our state, and these proposals come forward. They have to go through a 2-reading process. So this was a proposal that was brought forth to say, this is the best way for us to address the needs of our state as we currently sit. Well, and I think that's the explanation. And
yeah, and I
the competitive balance and all of those other things, agreed. But that was when we prioritized how we're going to make this decision. Those are the things we had to look at.
Well, and I understand with Thunder Basin coming into play, that kind of threw things a little askew, but you were already planned for Thunder Basin. But again, I was thinking, with this 16-team quadrant, and again, the Green Rivers and the Evanstons of the world, and we throw in Star Valley in there, I was looking at more like, well, maybe we should go back to that north-south. And then, again, as we have and again, we have the deck stacked right here in our area. 3 Cheyenne teams, Laramie.
Sure.
Then you got Rock Springs. Then it would be between Green River and Evanston. Who would be that 4A representative? Because, again, I remember back in the old football days at Green River, they were just crying because they were just so small and they couldn't understand why they were in 4A. So, again, I'm just throwing that out. Then, now you have the Thunder Basin, Gillette. You got the 2 Casper schools. You got Sheridan. Then you throw it across the north there, whether it would be Cody, Riverton, or even throw in Jackson into the mold. But that's
sure.
why I was figuring that to me makes more sense than the quadrant. But again, you guys you're higher on the pay grade than me, so you know this stuff better than me.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I just think there is a lot to it, and I will tell you this. We've had a little bit of a discussion, and I imagine that it'll come back up, this summer. We have, assuming we can travel and meet as we had planned, but I'm sure that the north-south thing will come up again, even if we stay at 16 teams. Now, I will give my opinion. This is only Chad's opinion. I haven't run this by anybody other than Chad. So, I don't like that, and Jerry and I talked about this, and my lone issue there is the travel on I-80. And like Jerry and I talked about, I don't remember, when I coached, it's what we did. We went to Evanston. But it seems like that road has gotten worse and is closed more often than I can remember. And as an AD, I've had a girls basketball team stuck on that road for about 14 hours. And I'm not okay with that. And I get it can happen, and I understand all of that. But that safety scares me tremendously. And Jerry and I talked about, I wonder if we could go back and sort of just chart how many days that road's been closed recently, over the past few years, to just see if it is indeed more than it normally was. And maybe it's not. Maybe I just notice it more now. And I think what you're going to get there is people are going to go, well, there's teams that are doing it. Well, there's not teams that are traveling the entire length of I-80. There's not in our current system. So I think that to me is the scary part.
And I agree with you
And
there.
again, it was a rather weird winter where it felt like I-80 was closed. It seemed like every single day throughout this entire 3-month span. And again, we've been stuck out there in Rock Springs with LCCC. So yeah, we know that pain of, hey,
Yeah.
it's not too fun out there. But get it away though from at least quadrant play and again just kind of those what if scenarios, but continuing at least the here and now with you, Chad, and also too looking into the future. Where I just want your opinion on this, and it's something that you talked about financials, especially here in the state of Wyoming, especially with our high schools and high school athletics right now, where the current day and age where financials are being affected. On a federal level, statewide, here in the local, here in Cheyenne, heck, we're even feeling it here at the radio station where it's a new landscape right now. But, you talk about financials being already kind of tough right now in the state before all this happened. What's kind of the future hold right now for athletics, not only just Cheyenne Central, but for the state of Wyoming in general, where could things get even more tighter headed into at least 2020 and 2021 athletics?
Well, I mean, I guess that some of that becomes, funding from the district level and what the district, how they allocate funds. And obviously, we're about to head into some different times as far as we're adding a sport, to our season next year, to our program next year, with softball. And so I guess what I would say is I can't answer that, Nick, with any type of intelligence, only because I think that obviously our district, and I would say statewide, but I would speak to our districts. They've done a fantastic job of funding all extracurricular activities, not just athletics, but I think they do a good job with travel and trying to make sure everybody has what they need to be successful and to give them a great high school experience. And credit should go to our district administration and our school board for that, because I think they're cognizant of those issues that we talk about. But with that, it does become incumbent upon us as athletic directors and activities directors to try to mitigate some of their issues, as far as travel. And so when we do things like that, the quadrants and all of that, it does help. But I don't know at this point if I can say there's going to be a significant impact, as far as a budget goes. If we get budget cuts, and then we just find a way to deal with that and try not to have the services that we offer our students affected by those.
Well, and I guess let me piggyback off that a little bit for you, Chad, though. We'll go into that kind of extreme scenario, again, of that what-if question of, basically say, the state and the district say, hey, we're mightily affected by this. What would be kind of those contingency plans, especially for Cheyenne Central, for athletics in general? Of would we see the elimination of kind of sport, at least season lengths? Would sports just go away? Would softball basically be postponed, of saying, hey, we can't afford it right now? What are kind of those bad case scenarios if we do get that kind of bad financial news here in the state of Wyoming?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't have an answer. Schools are funded. I mean, so that would be a district level decision. I don't think that Central High School is going to say, hey, Chad, what do you think? We're going to cut this. I think whatever we do would be at a district level. I think all of us would be treated the same and make those same decisions. Now, as far as I can speak a little bit to your question as far as would we postpone softball because we don't have money. The fact of the matter with softball is, that was a kind of a statewide effort, and it was directed at Title IX. And Title IX doesn't allow us to. Lack of funds, I don't think, is a reason for us to ignore a Title IX issue. So I think that. I don't see that happening, but again, I'm not an expert in Title IX. I know a little about it, and I think I think the district already has a plan in place to fund that, starting next year.
Chad, I want to move on to Class 4A football, and again, where we only have 10 teams for Class 4A football. Will there? And again, I throw out a Powell that has been dominant in Class 3. Do we ever see a team maybe jumping into the 4A ranks that we expand to 12 teams, and do we add an extra game? You know, I mean, I feel for the teams that are at the bottom of the heap, whether it's, you know, and I'll just use Laramie and South this year, where they're getting, I feel, shortchanged at only 9 games. And as you move on to that next round, you're at least getting a 10-game season in. Is there a chance of expansion? I know we always got to battle. You know, we back up against the wall with weather, but are we looking at expansion, or are we looking at adding an extra game for those bottom tier teams? What do you know?
Well, I mean, when you say we, if you mean the Activities Association,
Well, yeah, you're on that
again,
board.
those are. Yeah, no, I just, that's what I meant. I just want to make sure that because obviously that's not something we would do. But again, the board, we don't arbitrarily make those decisions. That if somebody came forward with a proposal, and it can be the 4A coaches, it could be the Coaches Association, it could be superintendents, it can be me if that's what I wanted to do. But those all the proposals that we get, the reclassification. Now, reclassification, which is what we would be dealing with there, Larry, would have that happens every 2 years. So we had 0 proposals on reclassification this year.
Right.
That I know. All the ADs know that. So we are going to do what we are currently doing for the next 2 years. But now, between now and then, if somebody has a proposal, what I would tell you is no, at the time there isn't any thought on that. At least there's been nothing brought forward that I have seen, even in our district meetings, which is where those would start. We would vote on those at our district meetings before it got to the board level. So, but anybody, you know, any of those groups within our school system can come up with a proposal and to put in an effort to make some of those changes.
So again, this would be strictly athletic directors, or as you mentioned, Coaches Association, bringing it forth to the board, and then that is something that is brought in a discussion forum amongst the board. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So what happens is, and it's not just reclass; it's sort of anything. When we shorten the season for basketball, and then a couple of years ago where we added the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Thanksgiving, that we were going to allow practice again, you know, but then we shut it down. We said Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're not going to touch your athletes. When I coached, we would have practice, or you could have open gym after Thanksgiving. We've said you're not going to do that. So any of those type things, they're sent to the Activities Association as a proposal. And then those are then sent out to the districts, and so like when I say districts, I'm talking there's Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, Southwest districts, and we're all representatives. So we're in the Southeast, so we go to a meeting in Wheatland and we discuss, and all the schools are represented at that meeting, and we vote on it, and it either passes or fails our district, and all 4 districts get to vote. Then it comes forward to the board, and the board votes. Then it goes back out again for a second reading, same process, all 4 districts, and then it comes back to the board, and if it passes at that second reading at the board level, then it becomes what we do.
Chad, we're in the second semester now of school for the high schools, and or is it third semester? Are you into 3 or 2 semesters now?
We've got 2 semesters.
All right, so we're into
this is semester 2, 4th quarter.
All right, so we're into the second semester. Obviously, youngsters that were going to go out and be student athletes during the spring sports obviously had to keep themselves grade worthy, so to speak, as they get ready for the next set of sports. Tell us a little bit how you. And I keep my fingers crossed that our young student athletes get that opportunity to at least get involved in some spring sports. Is it going to be really judged heavily on their grades again? I mean, everything just seems to be kind of out of whack for me right now, and I can't even imagine what you're going to go through. Yeah. So, again, and you're going to have to keep tabs on just about every student that decides to go out for an athletic event, if that does happen here for the springtime. But how do you keep on top of all of these student athletes and their grades now?
Well, one of the things that we've done, I mean, obviously, if we go back to school being in session, actually being in the schools and not distant learning, that helps us obviously because then it's um, assessments and grades are up to date and we can check it. So I've already checked initial eligibility for all of the spring sports. They give me a roster. I go in and make sure they pass enough classes the previous semester, make sure they're enrolled in enough classes now, make sure we don't have any transfers. And if we do, obviously there's paperwork that we would complete on them. And then what we do is we run academic eligibility weekly, and from there, and that's where I don't see a scenario where we have spring sports when we're not attending Central High School, if that makes sense. I think as long as we're doing distant learning, um, then I don't see us coming back. But if we do, then that's where, when teachers are updating grades, we check that eligibility every week to make sure they're passing enough classes, to make sure that they're not failing a class for 2 consecutive weeks and those types of things.
On top of that, Chad, where we'll talk about at least heading into the second semester for some of those seniors where maybe they were one sport athletes focusing on track and field or soccer, golf, whatever it may be. Where again, those seasons are kind of in jeopardy right now, or up in the air as it may be across the entire state, or at least the entire nation right now. But what are you or your coaches of those at least athletics over at Cheyenne Central kind of talking with those senior athletes that are kind of worried right now of, hey, where am I going to get that next level opportunity? I haven't already got those looks from that next level colleges. Again, what do you do to kind of talk to those seniors right now to kind of reassure them of, hey, there will be that opportunity, or we'll find a way to get you to that next level?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that falls on coaches and their communication with their athletes. It's been such a strange thing because I came back from Casper on Friday. I stayed because we had a board meeting that night on Thursday night. So I came back Friday morning. And then, of course, Sunday we were done. I mean, it was a crazy thing to be done. But, those coaches had already had contacts with their athletes at that point. And so I think those discussions are ongoing. And now, of course, it's virtually, right? I mean, they're emailing, or we use a Remind app that allows us to communicate with our kids and set up some things. So that's, yeah. And I think the thing that we, when I say we, I mean Central High School, the school district, East, South, the Activities Association, this has turned a lot of students' worlds upside down. And if we can get back to school and have some sense of normalcy and find a way to have a spring season, I think that obviously is what everybody wants. I just think that in the times we're dealing with, it's just such a strange thing. And, I think we're all just trying to plod through this as best we can.
Hey, final thought from me, Chad, and in advance here, thank you so much for joining us today. We do appreciate it here on Wyoming Sports Talk today. Same thing where Nick's mentioning with the seniors. I know Jared, I know Mark always gets involved with the triads. Your triad is McCormick. What about those young men and young women that will be coming over to Cheyenne Central next year? Have you had that opportunity to kind of get together with that class that's going to be coming over to Cheyenne Central and give them the ins and out of athletics with the Indians program?
Well, we usually do that in the spring. We try to get down there. We take our coaches down and meet with the eighth grade kids that are coming up, and hand out summer information and try to get them connected in that way. We have had more eighth graders coming up to the weight room until it was shut down and those types of things. But and then we usually have sort of a transition assembly that brings those eighth graders up to Central, and we kind of do a little thing and sort of a ceremonial type thing. And that's when we usually give out our athlete awards or our athletic awards from Central High School, and let those kids be a part of that and see that. But obviously that stuff's on hold. We didn't get down there like we normally do to meet with those kids, although our coaches have reached out and they've done a good job of, maybe even more so than ever, of having kids up at school with youth basketball, both boys and girls, and the football programs, and being in the weight room, and volleyball. Volleyball had an opportunity to have some summer stuff, get started and at least make a connection with those kids. But it's certainly been difficult, and more difficult than any other time that I can remember.
All right, Chad. Well, we want to thank you again. Appreciate all your time with us today. Again, our fingers crossed that some normalcy can return to Cheyenne Central, Cheyenne East, and Cheyenne South, and hopefully for our senior student athletes to get an opportunity at least maybe for a month and a half to finish out their senior careers, along with the other underclassmen as well. So again, thank you, appreciate it, and best of luck always. And again, hopefully within the next couple of weeks things can get back to normal.
Yeah, I hope so. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Chad Whitworth, Cheyenne Central Athletic Director, joining us here on Wyoming Sports Talk today. Take a time out. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for fun and adventure, Kia of Cheyenne is the place to start, and the 2019 Kia Sorento will help you find it. I'm AJ Miller, and the 2019 Kia Sorento will give you what you need to make things happen. This vehicle has plenty of power, all-season traction, safety features, technology, and comfort for any road you're on. The Kia Sorento offers plenty of standard features for the money, and we're all about saving you money. Come in, call 775-0123, or go to KiaofCheyenne.com, and we'll make it easy.
College. It's filled with classrooms, instructors, and exams. But beyond that, it's filled with curiosity, budding friendships, insightful conversations, and so many opportunities. There will be people like you, and you, and you. You'll work, you'll play, you'll struggle, and you'll succeed. But when you allow yourself to pursue your dreams, you'll learn what you're truly made of.
Welcome back to Wyoming Sports Talk. Today we are waiting our next two guests to be joining us, and hopefully they'll come within about a half hour apart. The new head coach of the Wyoming Cowboys basketball program, Jeff Linder, and then the man who replaced Jeff at the University of Northern Colorado, Steve Smiley, will be joining us around 4:30 today as we bring you Wyoming Sports Talk today.
Looking forward to
live via YouTube and Periscope via Twitter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
Yeah, again, as we're not doing the radio thing for the foreseeable future due to the fact that we do have board issues here. Again, trying to get that all situated due to the recent power outage that kind of blew up the old one. But again, at least we do have this opportunity technology to bring it to you live streamed on Periscope and the 1480 KRAE YouTube
But we do
channel.
have a board in place that's running KRAE.
Oh, well, again, we can't do the show on it due to the fact of it is.
We just need to get our engineer up here, but hey, I'm sure he's busy with other things right now as well.
But either way, again, looking forward to picking their brains. Again, talking with Coach Linder about the new opportunity in Laramie, and also to talk with Coach Smiley of what he's going to do down there in Greeley. Again, Smiley as well too. Coach Smiley, a former Region 9 or at least coach, was up at Sheridan College. Also too has been a part of the Big Sky, now the head man down there. So he's also too been hiring up some former Region 9 talent.
I'll say both have been adding to their staffs, which we'll hear from both coaches on that here in a bit.
Again, hopefully we'll talk with them very soon. But
let's go back to our conversation with Chad Whitworth. And again, now where I don't want to sit here with egg on my face, but again, thinking a lot of these things came out of the boards where it's more brought up through coaches associations and athletic directors. And again, first off, when we had 16 4A basketball athletic directors, well, we used to have only 12 4A. So all of a sudden we added 4 more voices into, let's add this new format into play. Again, I'm not a fan of this format. I'm not going to be a fan of the format, and I don't believe there should be 16 teams in basketball. There should be only 12.
Well, again, there's 16, and right now it's East versus West of the conferences. And, again, with the region tournament, again, we had the understanding from Tag Lane that, hey, his representative, that being Chad, voted against it, but all 15 said, yay, we're in for it. So, again, majority rules at that point in time. So that's where you're at, or at least that's where things stand with, the region tournament format for basketball as of right now. But, other questions that I was more interested in, again, where we are right now in this day and age is kind of topsy-turvy time with the coronavirus and just the outbreak and the pandemic that is across the world right now. But again, it does affect on the local side. It does affect, everyone, whether it is, as we're seeing, senior, at least athletes over at Cheyenne Central, all the way on down to those junior high athletes. Again, it's affecting everyone right now, but it was just interesting getting his thoughts on where, financials have been kind of the big thing right now, and financials have always been kind of that question mark, whether it is for the high schools, for junior colleges, for the University of Wyoming, where, we've heard some of those kind of worst case scenarios of, hey, if funding's not there, we got to remove something or alter to make way for those lack of funds.
Well, and I think you're missing even the more key point out of this. Not so much funding for the schools. How about families? How about families that have been directly impacted? And we're not talking in the central, east, or south. We're talking citywide. That, again, unemployment is up.
Statewide as well, too.
And a lot of these families are maybe okay right now. But if this goes on 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks, and again, nothing has been settled yet with our United States Congress. So, again, there's no checks in the mail for the families that have been hard hit by this.
No.
And again, there is a lot of unemployment right now that's going on through the city. And again, I'm not talking thousands of people. I'm just saying a lot of people have been hit. And you have to be fearful of that, where some of these student athletes may not be able to participate.
Well, and again, that's also too on the vein of, you look towards Cheyenne Extreme, Post 6, Wyoming Triple Crown, some of those where they have to kind of foot in that bill to again participate in those sports. But yeah, without a doubt, again, even looking to the high school ranks, whether it is soccer, basketball, track and field, well, you got to buy equipment. You got to buy new cleats. You got to buy this or that to at least make sure your athlete is prepared to step on those fields and compete at their best level.
And travel. And again, just back when you and your sister were playing, and your mother and myself, we'd be going. Maybe I can't afford a tank of gas. I'm out of work right now. Again, it'd be, and I'm being extreme, just so you understand. But I'm just saying, everybody has been hard hit so far in this state, just like all the other 48 contiguous U.S. states, Alaska and Hawaii. We all have been touched by this very unique set of circumstances. So, again, we want to thank Chad for joining us. We're going to take a time out. I do believe we're going to be chatting with head coach Jeff Linder of the University of Wyoming Cowboys coming up. Welcome back to Wyoming Sports Talk today. Larry Proetti along with Nick Proetti and our very special guest, the new head basketball coach at the University of Wyoming, Jeff Linder. Coach, thank you for joining us on Wyoming Sports Talk today. And second of all, congratulations on being named the new head benchman for the Cowboy program.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be here. It's great to be able to lead such a great historic program like the University of Wyoming men's basketball, and just look forward to getting started at some point. Even though we've started, the coronavirus has definitely provided some challenges, but we'll push ahead and got my staff organized. That was kind of the first order of business. Now got to go out and try to find a few more players.
Yeah, I got to love how the start of your tenure with the University of Wyoming, again, we're in the midst of a pandemic where it's kind of turned the world upside down, especially with recruiting, with the cancellation of spring sports, and, the future uncertain right now across the entire nation, across the entire world. But, let's kind of focus, at least before getting named as the head coach there at the University of Wyoming, where, again, you were part of UNC, Northern Colorado, down there in Greeley with the Bears program, a Bears program that's been fairly successful in recent seasons, where you've taken care of business. You know how to win there in Laramie after 3 straight wins against the Wyoming Cowboys with their UNC Bears. But why Wyoming? What attracted you to apply, or at least take the position there with the Wyoming Cowboys?
I think it's about two things. It's about the people and ultimately the fit. And I just, from doing my homework, I knew that Tom Berman's been there a long time, and I know a lot of people who have a lot of respect for him. And then the program in itself, it was just a fit from the fact that we had a lot of success in Northern Colorado, and I felt like we didn't have to do anything differently by going to Wyoming. I just felt like, okay, we can do a lot of the same things, but we're also now recruiting to a better conference overall, top to bottom, much better facilities, resources, and usually those things will equal better players. And I had some really good players in Northern Colorado that we were a top 75 team in the country and won a lot of games. But I just feel like the potential of Wyoming is so much greater, and I've seen that from the time I was at Boise State as an assistant coach, and when Coach Shyatt, Larry Nance, Josh Adams, Riley Grabo, those guys were at the University of Wyoming. At one point, they were a top 25 team, and you saw how the AA was rocking and rolling, and you have the state behind you. And there's very few places in the country now where people really support a university or support athletics or support college basketball. I mean, it's more of people watching on TV or watching through the internet or their phone. But I do believe that Wyoming is just one of those unique, special places that still exist because it is the D1 four-year university. There's so much pride in the university, and if we can do a good job of putting the right product on the floor, I think we can really tap into that pride, which I just think elevates the program and allows you to have some success that you can't have at other places.
Coach, you mentioned recruiting, and of course, recruiting, and as well as anybody, it's a 365-day-a-year job. You're always looking for that next level talent to come and help out your program. But obviously, you were recruiting talent for UNC before the University of Wyoming Cowboy job came about. Tell us a little bit what you have to tell to those prospective recruits that may not want to come to Greeley now, or and I don't know if this is legal or illegal, or do they say, hey, Coach, I'd like to come with you to UW if you're still interested in me? I mean, how does that all come about?
It's a process, and especially for the guys that we had signed early back in the fall to University of Northern Colorado, I had to make sure that I kind of notified them before I was named the head coach at Wyoming, just because you kind of run into a deal where once you become the coach and you sign a contract, well, now you're a part of the University of Wyoming. You're not part of UNC anymore, so technically you can't contact them. And so I just wanted to make sure that they knew where I was going. In a lot of ways, most of these kids, they end up signing with the people, not necessarily the university all the time, but a lot of it has to do with the relationship with the coaches. And I had a very close relationship with a couple of those recruits. One of those recruits who decommitted he decided to follow us, which I can't mention his name, but he committed and he followed us here, and hopefully we'll get one more of those. But for us, it's our recruiting matches how we want to play. You think that's common, but a lot of times there's a lot of college coaches who don't know exactly how they want to play. But for me, I want to make sure I have guys that can really shoot the basketball. We almost made 12 threes a game last year at UNC. We want to be able to stretch defenses out. I'm excited about some of the guys that I'm having being fortunate to coach with. Hunter Thompson, who creates a lot of problems with his size and his ability to shoot the ball. And then you had Hunter Maldonado, and Kenny Foster's a guy that struggled during his freshman year, but I saw him a bunch playing high school, and I know that there's a lot more in him. I think he's gonna have a really good sophomore year. And then Quan Marble, who we recruited here really hard at UNC. He's a guy that showed down the stretch the type of talent that he is. And so I'm really excited about those core group of guys. And now if we can just add a few pieces around them, as I told those guys when I got the job and I sat down in front of them face to face, is that, and I love and respect Coach Edwards. I mean, he's as good of a human being as you'll ever meet in the coaching profession. But I told them that, hey, I'm going to try to continue with the family atmosphere that he created. But at the same time, we're done losing games. We're going to find a way to win games next year. And I think just the way that I do things differently offensively, I think that can really help those guys in terms of freeing them up and making things a little bit easier for them.
Let's talk about that, at least recruiting philosophy that you'll bring to the University of Wyoming, Coach, where, we knew with Coach Allen Edwards, at least with the Cowboys program, that he was looking for those freshmen he wanted to develop for those 4 years there in Laramie with that program. But, talk about what you're going to be bringing to the table now being the head man there at the University of Wyoming with the Cowboys basketball program of, are we going to see kind of more influx of local, at least talent from the state of Wyoming, from the state of Colorado? Also, too, again, will you be looking at the local JUCO ranks, especially out here in Region 9, whether it is up here in the state of Wyoming, down there in Colorado, and also too out there in the state of Nebraska with the likes of Western Nebraska Community College and so on and so forth?
Well, I think the biggest thing is when you are at the University of Wyoming, what presents challenges and in some regards makes it maybe a tougher job than others is just because of your geographic location and your proximity to players that are good enough to help you win in the Mountain West. And we faced some of the similar challenges when I was at Boise State. But that's where when you do have a style of play and you're recruiting to that style of play, it's a lot easier for my assistants to go into, as we say, different ponds. And you have to go to somebody else's backyard and fish out of their pond. You have to really know what you're looking for so you're not wasting time. And that's where I've been very fortunate to put together a tremendous coaching staff. Today we announced my last assistant, Sundance Wicks, who comes from Gillette, Wyoming, who was a legend back in the day here, and for him to bring him back home and to bring his energy and passion for the state of Wyoming, for the University of Wyoming, with Ken DeWeese, who came with me from the University of Northern Colorado, and then to keep Sean Vanderer, who was assistant with me at Boise State back in the day, and someone who I've known for 20 years. But my thing is I wanted guys who can put us in front of a lot of different players, give us options, be able to recruit in areas where kids are going to have a better time, easier time adjusting to Laramie, to Wyoming, and who want to be here and who want to embrace being here. I think that's even a bigger thing, and that's where I really built my staff with guys that love Wyoming, that love Laramie, love it exactly for what it is, and knowing that it is a special place if you tap into it. And we have to go out and find those type of players that want to be in Laramie for the right reasons. And that's two things. It's one, to get your degree, and two, to become the best basketball player you can be. And I think with the facilities, I think with the coaching staff and the player development, we're gonna be able to find the right guys and get those guys better and compete for Mountain West championships sooner than later.
Coach, we always find out how the new side is when you get that opportunity to sign on with the new program, University of Wyoming, and again, talking about some of the talent base that is available to you and getting together with the team. Let's go on the opposite side there. How was it to say goodbye to your current team? Because again, this was built from the ground up by you, so obviously there was that had to be a tough goodbye for you over there in Greeley.
It was really tough. It was bittersweet, and just the nature of social media and how quickly things can spread. It was hard because I really couldn't tell the team until right before it was announced at the University of Wyoming. And so to kind of have to text message all the guys, because you run the risk where the night before, I reach out to them, and then some of those guys know some of the Wyoming players, and so you want to kind of keep it confidential. And so it was hard to do it that way, but they understood the love that I have for them and the blood and sweat and tears that some of those guys like Jonah Radabaugh, Kai Edwards, that we had experienced for 4 years together. And so I leave knowing that I've left it in a much better place than when we got there. I know Coach Smiley is going to be on next, and he was a big, big part of that. He came in there as my associate head coach. And when people thought that we were coming into just an absolute dumpster fire with all the NCAA sanctions that were looming, postseason ban, we never made any excuses. We never talked about the things that we don't have. All we worried about is what we did have, and really just poured into those players and found some other good players. And that's what was allowed us to have the success that we did at Northern Colorado.
Larry Perotti, along with Nick Perotti and Jeff Linder, the new head basketball coach with the University of Wyoming Cowboys. Again, we're on YouTube and Periscope via Twitter as we have Wyoming Sports Talk today. I want to go back to a question that Nick had brought up to you as well, Coach. Since we are the voices of Laramie County Community College, and we have that opportunity of seeing great programs from Sheridan all the way down to Trinidad State. Again, you have great knowledge of the Rocky Mountain region. As you have been out and about, and again, you want to look for that 5-for-4 student athlete coming to the University of Wyoming. Is it acceptable still to bring a 3-for-2 kid in that could be an impact to the program right away? Again, like I said, we've seen a lot of ball, whether it's 25 north, 80 to the west, or 25 south. So, again, just wondering, have you had that opportunity to see how this region, Region 9 North and South, has panned out over the last couple of years?
Yeah, no, I know Region 9 very well, know a lot of those coaches. Have recruited extensively throughout my career. And so we're always going to look in all kinds of different areas. 1, high school kids, 2, junior college, 3, Division I transfers, and then also international wise. Now, I do think in the Mountain West, as you start making your way up in levels, if you really look at it historically, you can't build your roster or have a majority of the players probably from the junior college ranks. But I do think that with our proximity to some of the better junior college programs in the country, Sheridan, Casper, Western Nebraska, Western Wyoming. Coach Sosa had a tremendous year this year. And it's unfortunate for them that they were not able to go to Hutch and experience that. But in Laramie County, that's right down the road. And so hopefully that if there's a player that's good enough, we're going to be on them. We're going to be recruiting them. And then also at the same time too, as we're out and about looking for players, when we find kids that might have to go junior college, to have those relationships where maybe we can put them at a Casper or a Sheridan or Laramie or Western Wyoming or Central Wyoming or Northwest, which there's a lot of 2-year schools in Wyoming that now we can maybe put them closer to us, so we can keep a closer eye on them. So I think it's a big advantage if you use it the right way.
As I alluded to early on in this conversation with you, Coach, where, again, it's kind of a topsy-turvy world right now where we're kind of adjusting on the fly, living life kind of day by day. But, again, as you are now in a new position out there with the University of Wyoming, again, trying to get adjusted or at least get your face out and try to implement your coaching style now with the current athletes that are there, part of that Cowboys program. But, going back to the recruiting topic right now, what does recruiting look like for yourself right now where, again, campus visits are basically unallowed? Again, no travel pretty much, no unnecessary travel. But what's kind of the recruiting process look like for you right now in these next couple weeks, next couple months possibly?
Well, it's back to the old days where it's just you got to get on the phone and You just got to be able to sell yourself. You got to be able to sell the vision. You got to be able to sell the program. Luckily, that with the internet and the ability to go onto our website, see the facilities, and to be able to kind of visualize what we're talking about over the phone. And so it does present some challenges, because I'm not sure, even though the NCAA said April 15th, and that was said a long time ago, I don't think we'll be out on the road recruiting anytime soon. I could see that extending almost into the summertime, the way this is going. And so you can either make excuses, you can feel sorry for yourself, or you can take advantage of the fact that everybody else is in the same boat. And if you do a good enough job of really working the phones and maybe being in the right place at the right time, because just these players, these recruits, just like, just the population in general, there's a lot of anxiety. And, you don't want to ever capitalize on that. But at the same time, if you're in the right place at the right time, we might be able to get 2 or 3 guys that maybe we might not be able to get if everybody was out and about visiting all these different kids. Because there's not a lot, it's a supply and demand, and there's not nearly as the supply come spring that there is in the fall. So now, with the supply dwindles, some of these kids that, they become in higher demand. And so you have to do a really good job. And that's with my recruiting, my coaching staff, who has a lot of experience in recruiting. They're going to definitely be able to dig some guys up and hopefully get the right guys that will allow us to keep putting the right players on the floor.
Coach, final thought from me, and we do appreciate you joining us on Wyoming Sports Talk today. Again, I'm one of those old fogies that was been on the floor before, doing the public address announcing, been in the in the arena auditorium with the tens of thousands and the 12,000s and 13,000s when BYU and Utah would come on in, and then you started seeing the dwindling of crowds once the program kind of slipped down a little bit. And obviously this year crowds were almost non-existent in the spacious arena auditorium. And as you mentioned earlier, you want to get everybody involved with this team and hopefully get that sixth man back into the arena auditorium. My question is to you. Do you feel that pressure immediately to put that winning program on the floor? Because, again, fans here, I'm going to be real candid, are fickle. And, again, here I am, I'm 63 now, Coach, and I used to have no problems. I wore an S on my chest, and I would drive to Laramie no matter what the weather was to sit down on the floor. But now that I'm a little older, it's like, well, it's snowing, it's a little icy. I'm not sure if I really want to go. Hey, there's social media. I guess that in a long, roundabout way, is there pressure on you to get those fans back in there right away?
Well, I don't think there's pressure. I just think it's a matter of just doing our job and making sure that we put a product on the floor that warrants the fans to come back. And it's, my job is as the face of the program to get out in the community, to get out in the state, and to try to drove up interest. But at the same time, winning cures all those things. And so by making sure we put the product on the floor that the fans want to come out and see, we'll definitely get them out there. But I don't feel any pressure, because every stop along the way that I've been, and I've inherited or been a part of a lot of programs where when you do come in, the program has kind of fallen on hard times a little bit, but in a matter of a year or two, we've been able to change that and been able to see a lot more people come back in the stands. And I know it's a big priority for me, because if you can create get that sixth man back, along with having maybe the biggest advantage in the country, playing at 72-20, now you make that a special place. And there's a reason why, of course, the history of Wyoming basketball, that they've won 76% of their home games. It's a great home court advantage, but we do have to get the people back. But that's on me, my coaching staff, and our players to just work diligently each day to make sure that we're ready when the time comes. And so when we get them back, we show them a good product.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you for joining us on Wyoming Sports Talk today. We wish you all the best, and we will definitely keep in contact with you throughout the course of the offseason and get ready for the preseason and during the season as well.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on, Larry, Nick, and don't hesitate to call. Love to be on anytime.
All right, Jeff Linder, the new head coach at the University of Wyoming, joining us here on Wyoming Sports Talk today. We must take a timeout. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for fun and style, then the new 2019 Kia Optima has what you need. And here at Kia of Cheyenne, we can help you own one. I'm AJ Miller, and the 2019 Kia Optima will reward your daily drive with comfort, performance, and advanced engineering. Kia Optima technology, your phone allows access to remote lock or unlock, climate control, 24-hour roadside assistance, and much more. Come in, call 775-0123, or go to KiaofCheyenne.com. We'll make it easy.
College has been something that's always been on the back of my mind.
This is where I found what I wanted, one of my passions, what I really love to do.
In class, I feel more engaged.
The people here do care about you, and they want to help you succeed in life.
They make it so easy to be a parent and be able to still go to school.
I like the way I'm improving.
I love being, part of the LCCC family, and I'm glad I made this step in my life.
Again, I want to thank all our fine sponsors while we have an opportunity. I want to thank Taco John's of Cheyenne. And when I read this list again, these are wonderful sponsors of ours, not just on our on 1480 KRAE, but also on our sister station, KYOI-FM. So, again, they're part of our family for a long, long time. So, again, thank you to Taco John's of Cheyenne, Kia of Cheyenne on Nationwide. Matter of fact, I think you saw the ad while we were in break. Platte Valley Bank with locations on Vanda High and at the corner of College and Pershing. Chick-fil-A, Windmill, and Del Range right across from Powers Field and Menards. Medicap Pharmacy, B&B Appliance and TV at 714 Central Avenue. Lennox Auto Body, the main repair center on Dunn Avenue. The Auto Glass and Detail Center can be found on Pershing Boulevard. First Tier Bank, 1508 Stillwater Avenue, directly across the street. Mondello's Pizzeria at 1507 Stillwater Avenue, Suite D in the Greenway Commons, and also Pepsi of Cheyenne. Going back to Taco John's, Chick-fil-A, and Mondello's Pizzeria. Again, offering, drive-through over at Taco John's and at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A offering curbside service, and at Mondello's they've got takeout, and I do believe they've got curbside service as well. Pick up the phone. Hey, that's something unusual. Pick up the phone, give them a call, and they'll take care of all the rest for you.
A lot of those places as well, too, do have apps and online opportunities. Again, Chick-fil-A, you can order online even before all this, so I would not doubt that that's still available for them. Taco John's as well, too. Again, it's not even just our advertisers, again, as much as we want you to go out and support those who do support us here at 1480 KRAE, but again, a lot of restaurants around town here in the city.
Local.
Yeah, shop local. Again, they're offering up those opportunities to either curbside pickup, and again, not even just restaurants, but again, we're seeing, whether it's bookstores, game stores, whatever it may be, again, offering online opportunities, offering to shop online, buy e-gift cards. I think Mary's Mountain Cookies that sponsored us during the sports broadcast season. As you'll see their ad during our virtual March Madness live stream upcoming this weekend, but they're offering up e-gift cards, even though their shop is currently closed in downtown Cheyenne, but they're offering opportunities to buy online and, again, shop online. So, again, it's interesting times, but this is kind of that key moment right now to shop local, support local, where, again, a lot of these businesses, including us right now, again, we'll not, shy away from it. That, again, economy, financials is hurting everyone.
It's not. We're not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough for everybody, including yours truly here. But we're making the best out of it each and every day. We're here, and again, we're keeping you updated on what's going on as far as with the COVID-19. Again, we're in a very unique state, Nick, that areas are so spread apart that we haven't had as many of the COVID-19 cases reported. And again, this will be up to probably our governor, as the president of the United States said. Hopefully, everything can get back to normal by Easter. We're 2 weeks out. We're 2 weeks out from that. But again, we're also looking at by about next Wednesday, exactly a week from today, that maybe we might get some normalcy back into our own area. So again, we only can keep our fingers crossed.
I can hope for that Easter situation because again, I was supposed to be out in Chicago at that time, and I'd still like to go out to Chicago. But right now,
you might be the only one with the pilot and the crew on the plane.
I'm surprised that planes or at least airports are still open, but obviously that's kind of a big economic thing.
Yeah, right
if
now,
you close that down,
nobody's flying anywhere.
Yeah,
so,
but yeah, again, it's pretty much the mantra that we said after the state tournament, where we got on for that hour, saying, "Hey, be safe, be smart out there." Again, also to shop local as well, where again, local folks everywhere, especially here in the city of Cheyenne, where again the city relies on a lot of these businesses like B&B Appliance, or as we had advertised on 1480 KRAE, again, Absolute Flooring. Hey, they need help, especially during these times. And again, there's ways online, especially the beauty of social media, you can find those ways to at least help out these folks.
Yeah, and again, people are open, and so far we're getting by. That's all I can say.
Still follow those regulations, though. The 6 feet rule, again, the health standards of, hey, sneeze and cough into your elbow, which again, all this health stuff has been something that you were taught as a kid, but at least it was a nice little refresher of how to wash your hands, how to sneeze and cough. If you are sick, hey, please, yes, stay home, even if you don't think it's anything serious. Still, though, err on the side of caution. It's pretty much of where I've kind of been living, at least it was something I saw on social media over the weekend of, hey, live as if you got it, not as if you're going to get it. Kind of approach things like that of, be self-aware, be self-conscious of, what is going on right now.
If Mother Nature would just kind of kick in an extra 20 degrees, I think life would be a lot better.
Yeah.
We are awaiting our next guest, and again, he's the new head coach at the University of North Colorado.
We will mention with the head coach, Steve Smiley, that he will be joining us on a first time ever, at least here on the show, via Skype. So we will be able to at least see Coach Smiley. He'll be able to see us via the normal webcam that everyone else does, view us on Periscope, on YouTube, and normally when we do have Wyoming Sports Talk today. But again, it will be a new venture, so kind of bear with us on the technical side as we've been kind of jerry-rigging a few things.
As long as I can hear him in my headphones, that's all I
tested it out. So hopefully we will be able to talk with him very soon. Again, this will be our first venture into a Skype interview with the coach, so looking forward to it.
Well, and obviously, Coach Linder knew that he was going to be joining us on the program today as well.
He made person to retweet it, same with Coach Smiley as well, too. So.
Well, we want to thank Chad Whitworth, Cheyenne Central Athletic Director, who took up a good portion of our 3 o'clock hour. Appreciate all that he answered. And again, made me kind of do a little more thinking on what actually goes on with the WASHA, the Wyoming High School Activities Association. So again, and what his role is on there. Again, we also think of the student athletes that April 7th is when they will be returning to school.
Potentially.
What will they be? Well, right.
They'll be returning. Yeah, they'll be back in school again. It's online as of right now, but again, athletics.
But
we want to
make sure that those student athletes at the high schools hopefully will get that opportunity to at least compete in some spring athletics.
But those athletics have been kind of pushed back. We saw, I think, of Nebraska of recent basically said May 1st is the timeline of where they're looking.
Like I said, you figure you got to get at least, like he said, 9 practices in. That's a couple of weeks. Then you look at the University of Wyoming Cowboys, spring football. Will that even take place? Don't know.
We'll see how long delay as well as we approach April, where we already mentioned that the first 2 tournaments for the Cheyenne Extreme program, again, for softball have been canceled, again, as they compete down in the Colorado.
Same with Post 6.
Post 6, Triple Crown Wyoming as well, too, on the baseball side of things. So interested to see when those seasons are able to start back up. Will they be able to play games? Again, what is kind of the start time for that?
Well, and interesting that you mentioned that, because my senior league, my over 60 league, we're looking at an April 16th start date, and that gets pushed back on a weekly basis right now. So that's the earliest that we can start. So and that's just on availability because the schools, we play on school district fields, and right now they're not allowing us even on the ground. So it'll be interesting to see. Are we about ready to rock and roll?
I can only hope so. Again, I'm still awaiting that call.
Okay.
So.
I thought you were getting ready to bring on the head coach.
No, I'm just looking at my email to make sure that he did send a note of, hey, we canceled or something like that. But, again, it looks like he should be able to here very soon.
All right, well, we do want to thank Coach Linder, the head coach, the new head coach of the University of Wyoming. Wish him all the best. And, again, too, taking on a storied basketball program. Again, and he mentioned the names, of Larry Cheyenne. Again, we've had some very good coaches that have come through the ranks there at the University of Wyoming. We've also had some very good basketball talent that has come through there. And again, if Coach Linder can do the same as he did in Greeley at the University of Northern Colorado, mold this talent into a program that can win right away. And I think after what we saw at the Mountain West Conference tournament, by this team that really rallied around Coach Allen Edwards. That was the team we were waiting for all season long to play basketball. That was a team that was not afraid to shoot it from the outside, was not afraid to go inside and battle for the boards and take the ball to the hole. So and played a little defense as well. So I think Coach Linder needs to put a couple of pieces in the right place and get this team on the floor and get some W's right away. And hopefully for the University of Wyoming, the fans, as they say, build it, they will return. We'll take a timeout. We'll come right back here on Wyoming Sports Talk Today. And welcome back to Wyoming Sports Talk Today. We bring on our final guest as we go 85 south to Greeley, Colorado, and we check in with our next guest. He is the new head coach at the University of Northern Colorado as he'll lead the Bears program, that being Steve Smiley, again, who's no stranger to the program at the University of Northern Colorado after being on the bench there for the last 4 years with Jeff Linder. So, Coach, first off, congratulations on the promotion, and welcome to the program.
I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on.
All right, Larry Proetti along with Nick Proetti and Steve Smiley. Coach, right out of the box, as we just had Jeff on here a few moments ago, and again, we always talk about meeting your new team, but also wanted to know how the reaction was to saying goodbye to your old team. But again, as you look at your team, hey, you don't need to reacquaint yourself. You know these guys. You know what you got in the fold for hopefully the 2021 season.
Yeah, it's been unique in the sense of when you take a new job, most of the time you gotta worry about everything. You gotta worry about picking up, moving, kids, schools, wife, job, all the different type of stuff. Medical benefits, everything, and one of the real blessings of this promotion is that none of that has to change. I'm sitting in my living room and I don't have to sell my house. I don't need to pick up, and we're already here and we're already established. So, with the team, yeah, it was, the transition, was pretty swift. But at the same time, it was something that we were kind of prepared for. Obviously, Coach Linder is a very, close friend of mine, and we've worked together, for the last 4 years. And so as this all kind of went down, we were on the same page on how we wanted to approach it with the guys and kind of deal with all that stuff. So it went very good. And, like you said, the vast majority of that team is going to be back. And, right now we're working on kind of finalizing roster and working on recruiting and doing all that different type of stuff. So it's going very well. I mean, there's a million moving parts, and you just attack it kind of one day at a time, one call at a time, one text at a time. But it's been good.
Coach, you've been a head coach before, so not your first rodeo, but some takeaways that you will remember with being on staff with Coach Linder.
Just so much. I mean, first of all, everyone talks about how good of a coach he is, which he is as high level of coach as I've ever been around. And that includes, Don Meyer, that includes Randy Ray, Paul Sather, all the guys I've been blessed to work with. And he's as good as it gets. But even more so, he's such a good person, and he's a guy that, he's a family guy. His sons are close to my son, and all of our kids are good friends and things like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fond memories. In fact, there was as he moved on and I was able to get this job there. Probably in our household, there was as much excitement as there was a little bit of sadness and depression with the family because our families are so close. So I would just take away, one, that he's a great person, but two, in terms of as a coach, and in terms of a basketball mind, and not just people think he's an offensive mind. He's a total package coach. He knows the entire game, the ins and outs, and I've learned a lot from him.
Well, at least, Coach, if you want to see Coach Linder again, it's only just a small trip up at least US 85 on over to I-80 to get over Laramie. And again, you've been a part of that 3 straight, at least, road trips up there to the AA, where you're at least those Bears teams of taking care of business against those Wyoming Cowboys. Again, looking forward to those battles in the upcoming future. But, here we stand, March 25th, 2020, where you are now the head coach down there in Greeley of the UNC Bears basketball program. But give us the background of what led to this, at least, position for you right now, Coach Smiley. Give us your basketball coaching background up to this point at UNC.
I think you want your resume.
Yeah, you want the resume. I like it. No, I mean, once I finished playing, I played for Don Meyer at Northern State University, the late and great Don Meyer. And after that, first kind of part of the transition, I went down to Texas, and I was at a school, Texas A&M International School. I got my MBA down there, and that's kind of where I was kind of like a volunteer GA. And coached for 1 year under Tarvis Felton, who right now is also in the Mountain West at Fresno State. So I was with Coach Felton for 1 year. I finished my degree. I got the call from Paul Sather, who's now the head coach at North Dakota. And at the time, he had just gotten his first head job at Black Hills State University, and he offered me the head job. So I think I had my first head assistant job at, 24 or something like that. Was there 1 year. Coach Meyer called me, said he was going to create another assistant job. He wanted me to come on board. So you can't say no to Don Meyer. So I went back to Aberdeen. I was Coach Meyer's assistant for 2 years. And then I got my first head job at Sheridan College, and I was there for 6 years. And that was a great experience. Obviously, I think it was 27. I got my first head job and did that for 6 years. And to be honest, I had no intention of ever leaving. It was a great situation. And spot opened up at Weber State. Got the opportunity to go to Weber State for Randy Ray, who's the all-time Big Sky winningest coach. Same thing. You just can't say no to that. So I went and worked with Coach Ray 2 great years. The second year we went to March Madness. We won the Big Sky. We had all that success. And it was a great time. And some really great kids we worked with, finished that up. And then at that time, that's when UNC became open. Coach Linder was at Boise State. He called me, said he was going to get involved, and he wanted us to go together. And it was just kind of a no-brainer to take that next step. I'm glad I said yes to that 4 years ago, or we probably wouldn't be here talking today.
Absolutely. And again, look at Coach Smiley, at least giving praise out there to Sheridan College. Again, you don't have to, give those at least nice compliments up to Sheridan in that Golden Dome. Again, we know the rivalry out here with LCCC and everything, but
sure.
But at least again, tongue in cheek with that one for you, Coach. We throw a little shade at the Sheridan College of what they've been doing to our programs over the past couple of years, but. Being part of Region 9, and we talked with Coach Linder about him looking towards this Region 9 of where it is here in the state of Wyoming, down there in Colorado, and also out to the western side of Nebraska with the talented men's teams that we see get in the top 25, especially this season with Western Wyoming and what they were able to do and Coach Souza. But is that something that you are going to try to go heavily, at least on the recruiting process, to look for those JUCO guys, knowing what the talent level can be in this region, let alone, or what's going to be kind of the recruiting philosophy now that you are in that position at UNC?
Yep. No, I mean, first of all, Region 9's got a lot of good players. Our current UNC roster, the off the top of my head, we had a Western Nebraska kid, Trent Harris, who, this year made, I think, 100 threes and, was a double-digit scorer for us and was a huge piece of us winning all these games, not just this year, but last year as well. His first game in college at UNC made 11 threes and broke the school scoring record. So I'm a big believer in Region 9. In fact, the first member of our staff, we were able to keep Dorian Green, but then the first outside member that we are able to announce is another former Region 9 guy in Houston Reed. So Houston Reed was the head coach at Otero and had some national powerhouses when he was there for about 10 years. So, that's going to still be a heavy emphasis. The overall recruiting plan, the first thing you got to do, at least for us, and kind of what we did with Coach Linder, is we wanted to make a heavy emphasis on putting the fence around the state of Colorado. And I think we've done that, over the previous years, getting guys like Sam Maston, Bodie Hume, obviously Jonah Radabaugh was already here, all in-state guys. And then you start kind of with that and you build it from there. But Region 9 will be a heavy emphasis. I'm still good friends with, a lot of those coaches that I've coached against when I was at Sheridan. And I think just in terms of, the ability for those guys to really help us at this level, absolutely.
Coach, and we've had that opportunity over the last few years to cover LCCC, being the voice of the Golden Eagles. And it's interesting, too, to see the advancement of these young men from their freshman to sophomore years. And if they get that opportunity to go to that D1, and we'll use University of Northern Colorado, where you got them, as I always say, 3 for 2, because they only have 2 seasons left to play after their sophomore year. As they come to you from Sheridan or Western Wyoming or LCCC, they come and play in Greeley. Are they D1 ready? I mean, are they ready to step on the floor and be an impact player?
Well, every kid is different. It's hard to kind of, throw a big net around that. But I think it goes back to the biggest thing with junior college guys is understanding exactly what your need is. And, as a junior college coach, when people would recruit my guys from Sheridan, it sounds great to go Division I and go to this program and that program, but ultimately what's going to make the kid happy is having the opportunity to play those last 2 years. Because if you're not playing, it doesn't matter where you're going to school, it's going to be miserable. So I think in the big picture of junior college, you got to find the need. And if you find the right need, like, hey, this is a need on our roster right now, and you start to identify those guys, if you can identify the right ones, then in a lot of ways they are ready. But with that being said, there's a massive transition and there's a massive, adjustment just in terms of all the different stuff, in terms of the day-to-day, in terms of the resources from this level, compared to the junior college level. And so it's a great thing for them. And the acclimation phase is, I think it's hard, but I think it's really good once they get over that acclimation phase.
Granted, Coach, you've only been the head coach of UNC for a few days now, but we talk about the transition, at least process for student athletes from JUCO to D1 basketball as a possibility. But again, as you've been a head coach in Region 9 up there with the Sheridan, at least College Generals, so far, or at least being behind the scenes with Coach Linder down there at UNC. What are things, or at least the takeaways and things that you've noticed that are kind of different between being a JUCO head coach and now being a head coach of a D1 program?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously said just a few days in, and I'm not even sure what day it is right now. It's just been a blur. You start off, and it's funny, Coach Linder and I were joking about that. when I was able to interview before I got hired, and the interview went well. And then eventually I was able to get the offer, and I sat down and looked at it. I called Coach Linder, and we talked about it. He's like, hey, you got to do it, and I was so excited to do it. And he said, hey, I know you're a taskless guy and you're a type A guy, but he says you have no idea when the announcement's made and this thing hits. He goes, you have no idea what's going to happen. And he was absolutely right. It went from basically like 0 unread text messages, because I'm kind of a type A, clean out the the inbox guy, to in 48 hours I had over 500 unread text messages from friends I've heard from a while, to recruiting stuff, to just all kinds of different stuff, and it just hits you like a whirlwind. So at the same point, you got to kind of keep your eye on the prize and know what the main thing is. The main thing is aggressively attacking, building your staff, keeping your current players on board, obviously, especially with the transfer world that we all live in right now. And then obviously recruiting is of utmost importance. And right now with the coronavirus, it's a completely new way to recruit, because we can't go out and recruits can't come here. So it's a whirlwind. I think every day I get a little bit closer to kind of where it's going to get back to normal, but that's still quite a ways off. There's a lot of moving parts, but it's been great. It's been fun. It's been exhilarating, overwhelming, all those words. But at the same point, we're attacking them one step at a time.
We're talking with Steve Smiley, the new head coach at the University of Northern Colorado. Coach, when we're calling games for LCCC and we see common freshman mistakes, so you're going through the high school route and you're getting that recruit to come to Greeley, and again, as I always use the 5 for 4, because you might redshirt him his freshman year, we don't know, but unless he's of an exceptional talent. But how do you get that high school player to get out of bad habits? And in a good case in point, big guys under the bucket. They like to put the ball down on the floor and then go to the hoop with it. Or guys that don't transition too back on defense. How do you get them into that college swing of things? Hey, this is the way we do it at this level.
Yeah, I mean, obviously reps, and just building habits, one day at a time, one practice at a time. Obviously, at this level, you can speed up the learning curve because of, the resources, the film, the technology available to you, the resources with nutrition and strength and conditioning that are, great at the Division I level. And so you can speed them up a little bit quicker, but at the same time, I mean, it takes time. I mean, there's such a 18-year-old kid that comes straight from high school. They're going to make some of those mistakes that you mentioned, and you just got to, one, you got to be patient. Two, you've got to continue to kind of show them what exactly it is that they need to do. Your staff is vitally important. Your assistant coaches that are allowed to be on the floor with them, that they know what the vision is. So you're kind of just, it's like the old Don Meyer, the thunderstorm or the slow drip irrigation, on the farm. Like, if you just explode and have this huge thunderstorm on the farm, and it's just going to flood the place out. But if you have the slow drip irrigation, just piece by piece, eventually the plant's going to grow the way you want it to. So you got to have some patience and some vision in terms of what they'll be 1 year, 2 year, 3 years from now. But it's a process, man, for sure.
When you were tabbed as the head coach at UNC, I'm sure you probably had a short list of folks that you would like to have with you on the bench. And obviously, you've been around the area for a long time, and a lot of you coaches, it's a fraternity, obviously, of guys that you've come to know over the course of years. But when you sat down, announced as the head coach, did you immediately put into play, I'd like to get him, I'm going to call him? I mean, did everything fall? Did all the dominoes fall into place for you?
Sure. No, I mean, it's, you have an idea long before you kind of get the call that you're going to be that coach. I mean, you probably talk to the people that, you really like and trust and you'd love to work with. And obviously we all want to work with our friends so long as it still makes sense in terms of the makeup of the staff. And so, you evaluate kind of, first of all, what's in the staff currently, and then you also know who you want to kind of bring from the outside. So that process has been, it's been great. That's been a whirlwind too. My first goal was, because I knew Coach DeWeese was probably going to go with Coach Linder, which he did, and that's been announced now. And my first goal was to retain Dorian Green, who was tremendous assistant for us this year, and was hired a year ago, and he's been great. And so I wanted to make sure that we kept Dorian Green on staff and the continuity of that. And then in terms of the other assistants, the other assistant that has been announced so far is Coach Houston Reed, which Houston Reed again going all the way back to being Otero Junior College, now leaving his job as the head coach of Chadron State, Division II in the RMAC. And Coach Reed is he's a college teammate, one of my best friends, and a really good coach to boot. So I mean, so far it's been really good.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on Wyoming Sports Talk today. We wish you all the best, and congratulations on the new gig. And I'm sure, like I said, the program's not going to miss a beat with you sitting on the bench now as the bench boss.
Hey, thanks so much. Pleasure to talk to you anytime.
All righty. Steve Smiley joining us here on Wyoming Sports Talk today. We are going to wrap things up for this Wednesday afternoon. Now, tomorrow, and Nick, I'll let you go ahead and set this up. And matter of fact, I know you were actually interviewed for what you're doing here. It's a very unique situation that you are showing what could have been.
It is that ultimate what if of again, coming up tomorrow. Again, I'll make those details known here later on today as, again, it will get underway tomorrow. But, again, of times and also of what
we're down to the Sweet 16
We're down to the Sweet 16. So, again, we'll have 4 games tomorrow, 4 on Friday. Then we'll break it down to the Elite 8 on Saturday and Sunday, 2 then, 2 on Sunday. So, again, all those games, we'll get that all squared away. I've also, too, I've updated things a bit. I wasn't going to do it for all 64 teams, but for the 16 that are remaining, have made the actual rosters. I put the actual players that are currently a part of those teams on there. So, again, fans of the remaining teams of Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Little Rock. We've had a whole bunch of just wacky upsets throughout our Virtual March Madness. But, again, it's the 1480 KRAE Virtual March Madness What If. Again, it is broadcasted on Periscope, on Twitter, which, again, you can find at Nick Wild Sports, and also to the 1480 KRAE YouTube channel. Again, it is that ultimate what if of what if NCAA March Madness was happening right now. So, again, just follow along with it. Have fun as well, too. Hey, if you want to start a little betting with your group of friends, go right ahead. I don't care what you do with it. But, again, you can follow along live with us. Again, the bracket is also up. It will be updated every single moment, again, as a final score does happen in that game. Again, it is a Google Doc, which we do post, or at least I post that link up there for folks to at least look into it at any point in time and keep updated with it. So, again, looking forward to it.
What time's our first game tomorrow?
Again, haven't gotten that far because, again, I'm trying to tweak a little things to add a little bit more authenticity and a little flair. It's kind of like what FS1, I think it was FS1 over the weekend did. Similar situation of broadcasting the NASCAR. At least it was virtual NASCAR, but, again, they had the whole flair, the whole presentation broadcast. Looking to do something similar as well, too. So, again, times as of tomorrow, again, will be updated later on today once I get that all at least figured out. But, again, tune in on our social media sites at Nick Wild Sports on Twitter, 1480 KRAE, the Facebook page, Wyoming Sports Talk Today, the Facebook page of all that information, how you tune in. Again, Thursday, Friday, at Sweet 16.
Again, YouTube.
Saturday, Sunday is Elite 8.
YouTube and Periscope via Twitter, where you can catch all the action.
Absolutely.
So, with that all being said,
as I say, absolutely. I think every day we had about 7,000.
What are you going to do there? You got to do it on this date in history?
Might as well.
Are you kidding me?
Well, sports did happen on this date in previous years. It's not happening now.
Well, all right, what do you got here before we wrap things up?
Well, before we wrap things up, how about we go? It's March 25th, back to the year 1972. It goes on the theme of what we're talking about, but a championship was crowned on this date.
I'm going to have to go with UCLA winning a championship in 72 with John Wooden.
Who'd they beat?
I'm going to go, let's see, 72.
It's right in front of you.
What's that?
It's right in front of you.
Florida?
There you go, as I'm wearing the Gator undershirt right now, but it was
I was going to say Louisville, actually.
The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship where UCLA beats Florida 81-76. How about the 6th straight title for the Bruins? And future Hall of Fame center Bill Walton. Bill Walton was the tournament most outstanding player.
So at least I'm 75% right again.
Regarding
I'm good.
Regarding Wyoming Sports Talk today, again, we're talking about how sporadic it's going to be. Again, keep tuned to our social media sites when we do go live with the show. Again, we're not going to bore you to death and repeat topics and do more of the what-if scenarios of timelines. Again, when there are breaking news, like, again, new head coaching, a firing of a head coach, or situations like that, or we know, hey, this Sport A is going to return at this point in time, we'll come back on. But, again, we're not going to bore you to death right now. We're the ESPN of the world. Again, every other sports channel is doing it right now with reruns.
ESPN showing WrestleMania 30 this past weekend. You kidding me?
We're approaching WrestleMania 36. So
well, I know, but geez, you're showing WrestleMania 30. What was a baseball date? Let me think. What was baseball today? Oh my gosh! Now it'll slip. It was Cincinnati playing. Anyway,
apparently MLB is also too going to be.
But they only showed two different topics, though.
Well, MLB is going to be what we learn is day one, or at least what was supposed to be opening day. They're going to show every single team some historic game that every team won in. So basically,
right.
Rockies will have a winning game that they'll show.
And you can watch Rockies Rewind, because I watched the Giants and the Rocks earlier this afternoon.
All I'm saying is, how much of reruns can you take?
162 games worth of, because that's what they could possibly show you on Rockies Rewind.
I'm just saying, with us, in our show, we're not going to bore you to death with reruns or anything like that. Again, we're going to play music on 14A to KRAE. Granted, that's all we can do at this point in time. But again, regarding the show, stay tuned. Do have things in the work of possibilities regarding live stream and streaming opportunities. So stay tuned in the future. That might be coming up this Monday. So, again, all social media sites, whether it is KRAE, Wyoming Sports Talk Today, on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, stay tuned. Again, that's where all our announcements
and wherever you're viewing us, remember, again, during this and always, I have been a proponent of this for forever, since I've been in this business now going on 43 years. Remember, when you're doing your shopping, please always shop local first. Give our local merchants the opportunity. If they don't have what you need, then obviously you move on elsewhere. But again, try to do all of your business local first. For Nick Proati, I'm Larry Proati. We wrap up with Wyoming Sports Talk Today right here this afternoon. Take care. Have a good evening.